After week one, we already have eliminations. What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. And yes, we are back with our week two playoff eliminator, and we have more teams to add to the list. So first, let's look at who was already eliminated. We eliminated all the group of 5 teams. And, I talked about UTSA, Boise State, some teams maybe having some opportunities to get into the conversation, but I didn't really see a path for them. We've got Tulane. Now, Tulane does have a chance against Ole Miss to get a big win, but I still don't think that's going to be enough. I think even if they go undefeated, Tulane probably does not get into the playoff. If they beat Tulane and they really start looking impressive, maybe we bring them back from the dead. But as of right now, I don't even want to talk about any group of 5 teams. I think it's just a waste of time. And so we go to our new eliminations. Now, Arizona State actually should have been eliminated last week. They are not eligible for the postseason. I just forgot about that. Someone in the comments reminded me. Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot who that was. But yeah, they're not eligible, so we can go ahead and eliminate them. Baylor gets blown out by Texas State. Boston College loses to Northern Illinois. We saw Purdue. They lost to Fresno State. Texas Tech lost to Wyoming. And I just don't think a team can come back from a loss to a group of 5 team. I just don't see that happening. If these teams win the rest of their games and that's their only loss and the playoff rankings come out, they're probably still not going to be anywhere near even the top 10. And I think they will have too much of a hill to climb. And I just don't see them. Boston College has a really weak schedule. Maybe you could see a team out of the SEC, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, Purdue losing to Fresno State, I guess, is not horrible, but I'm going to go ahead and say these teams are eliminated. I don't think they'd bounce back from that, even if they were to run the table. And let's be honest here, none of these teams are going to run the table. So 5 Power 5 teams now eliminated. A long ways to go as we narrow the field, but let's talk about the teams with 1 loss that are still alive. So these teams already have a loss, but I think they can all bounce back from that technically. You see Virginia there. Virginia's not going to, they're not going to make the college football playoff, but technically if they won out, I think there would be especially, a loss in Tennessee is not that bad. But you got Clemson already lost, Florida already lost, Georgia Tech already lost, Indiana, LSU, Nebraska, Northwestern, South Carolina, TCU, Virginia, West Virginia. But all of these teams lost to Power 5 teams. And actually all these teams lost to pretty good teams, except maybe Northwestern. They lost to Rutgers. Other than that, I mean, they've all got pretty good losses. So these teams have 1 loss, but they're still alive. I would say LSU is probably the most likely team out of this group to go on a run and maybe get to the playoff. Clemson, perhaps, if they can get things turned around, but most of these teams are not really, considered serious contenders. And already with a loss, it'll be very tough for these teams to run the table and make it. So, top contenders, I've moved some teams around just a little bit. We've still got Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State. And remember, these are not my predictions. This is just what I feel like the general consensus is around the country. Those seem to be the 4 teams that everyone has as their favorites. I did not, if you saw my playoff predictions, I didn't have Alabama or Ohio State in there. But Penn State, I think, has moved up into this list. We had them on the dark horse list last week after their performance and the way Ohio State and Michigan didn't look overwhelmingly great. I think Penn State now could be a top contender. USC is right there still. Washington was really impressive, so they're there as well. And of course, Florida State, after beating LSU, definitely they have to be considered a top contender. So your dark horses now are North Carolina. They enter this conversation. Notre Dame, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is new to the list. Oregon, Texas, Tennessee, Utah, and Oregon State. But yeah, North Carolina looked really impressive. Actually, it looked like they're going to have a pretty good defense, and we know about their offense. Notre Dame was here last week. Oklahoma, a very impressive win. I know it was against a bad team, but still, they weren't winning games like that last year. So you wonder if they've got some things fixed there. Oklahoma looking like a very good team, at least through 1 game. So I bumped them into the dark horses. If Oklahoma and Texas are the favorites and the 2 teams that have the talent to maybe make a run out of the Big 12, perhaps Kansas State should be on this list, especially now that TCU and Texas Tech have lost. We'll maybe bring Kansas State into this conversation next week. We'll see how things go. Oregon was really impressive. I mean, if it had been a better opponent, maybe they would be on that top contender list. And there's Texas. Tennessee was really impressive. Utah, the win over Florida. Oregon State took care of business against San Jose State. So now it feels like, it's not down to these teams, but those 16 teams seem to have the best shot. LSU and Clemson have been moved off the list. They're still alive, but not really considered in that top contender or dark horse category right now after losing in week 1. So this is what it looks like now. I think Georgia's probably still the favorite. Most people are going to have them winning out. And then you've got the Michigan-Ohio State game, the winner of that. If they were to win the Big Ten, they would take that 2 spot. Then you have potentially Florida State and USC at number 3. If both of those teams were to go undefeated or 1 loss, win their conference, then you'd obviously bump one of them to number 4. And you'd have Georgia, Michigan, or Ohio State, and then Florida State and USC, or USC and Florida State. But if there's another team with a shot, I think you're talking about Alabama, Washington, and Penn State. So these are the teams that I think right now have the best shot. These are the 8 teams that are in that top contender category. And I don't know that it definitely comes down to these 8 teams. I think there are other teams that maybe could sneak in there, like an Oregon potentially, or Notre Dame potentially. So I don't think these teams are like way above everyone else, but just based off of what most people are thinking, the way the season's going to go, it does feel most likely that it will come down to these 8 teams for the 4 playoff spots. So that's the Eliminator this week. Again, 4 teams losing and being eliminated because they lost a group of 5 teams, and I'm sure there will be plenty more eliminations coming in the next few weeks, but we are just getting started. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and thank you for watching.